Welcome everybody to the Awaken Life podcast. Today, we are going to share day 3 of our 5-day immersion. And what we want to talk about is the truth behind what yoga actually is.
Yeah, how meditation is the OG yoga, if you take it back far enough. But very specifically, we want to teach today how meditation can help you end all of your struggles with life. That's what we're going to share inside this episode. So let's get right to it. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Super excited. This is day 3 of the 5-day yoga immersion. And I am super pumped about today. In the Facebook group, we've been, all of the sharing. Oh my God, it's so good. Thank you so much. John and I talked about it yesterday. We never thought that there would be so much willingness to be vulnerable and share your stories. And I can't tell you, it's one of the things in our teacher trainings that is probably the most powerful thing that we do is the sharing. It's journal writing and sharing. So anyway, what you guys are doing is it's humbling. So today, so excited about it because we are going to talk about what yoga actually is. But first, let me just recap for a second because it's really important. As John and I were trying to put this immersion together, we wanted to be very specific about making sure that everyone knew how all of this fits together. And so the recap is what we're really teaching you is the Awaken Life formula. Now, the Awaken Life formula, it's basically what this entire training is about. And there's a process. And so the first day, I talked about the idea of being and becoming. And now what we're really doing, the big lie is that it's really about being in terms of understanding your truth and letting that be the foundation of your becoming, right? And so that was the whole theme. And then John talked about in the very next day, day 2, about movement and what the yoga poses, what the practice is really designed to do for us. It's not about gymnastics. It's not about contorting your body, thinking that that's somehow going to magically make your life better. It's about moving in such a way that it helps us reclaim lost youth, to be fluid, strong, and flexible, right? But also, the secret of that is that movement is designed to prepare us for meditation. And so this is my point. It's very sequential. We move for our bodies, right? That's why we love just the normal practice that everyone thinks yoga is. But we also move in this Awaken Life formula prior to meditation to prep us, because movement is one of the quickest ways to change our state and set us up for what I'm going to talk about today, meditation. Now, what's so important about meditation, you'll find out today. And then tomorrow, John's going to talk about, it's so good, about this next level of manifestation. And so, but when you look at all that, and so from meditation, it then supports us and provides this foundation to create the life of our dreams. And there's a process that we teach all within manifestation, what you're kind of going through right now. But my point is, I really want to articulate that this Awaken Life formula is movement, meditation, and manifestation in a very specific way that John and I do every single day. And what's really embedded in that is for us in our lives to have more purpose, right? To know, this is where I want to go in my life. Because without that, how are you passionate? And people are really they're I want to be passionate about something. Well, if I don't know where I'm going, then I don't have the fuel and the fire to have a direction of knowing where I should be running. So purpose is first, and then we have this passion. That's the emotional content, right? It's what fires us up and gets us out of bed and allows us to go the extra mile so that we can create this manifestation. But without, you can have passion. You can know where you're going and you can be so excited about it. But if you don't have the personal power, this third element, and this third element, as John's going to talk about tomorrow, is it's so important. Obviously, they all link together. But without this, you can have purpose and passion and you can just be unhappy because I know where I want to go and I'm excited about it, but I just don't know how to get there. Because what's really missing is the personal power piece. All of this together, the movement, the meditation, the manifestation, what's required and what's kind of being pulled into that experience is purpose and passion and power, is what we call the awakened life. So what we're really teaching in this whole thing is how do we live an awakened life? So that is the kind of the recap and the excitement about what's coming tomorrow. But let's get into today. All right, so let's go here. There we are. Day 3. the truth behind what yoga actually is, why meditation is the key to ending all your struggles with life. With life. Please, I'm not saying there will be no more struggles in life, but you will stop struggling with the reality of what life is giving you, what it's offering. And so, what is the purpose of meditation? I apologize, we're gonna go super deep real quick. But let me back up real quick. I first heard about meditation and I was in my late teens, early 20s, right around that time. And I forget who I was actually following and listening to that kind of compelled me to do this. But I heard that if you meditate for an hour. I was like, and when you meditate, you sit with nothing underneath you in a cross-legged position and you have to time it. But that's what meditators do. You meditate for an hour in a cross-legged position on the floor with time. And so that's what I did. Oh my God. 10 minutes into it, I was like, this doesn't feel right. Legs numb, right? Body shaking. 30 minutes into it, and it's an all-out war in here. Now, I'm kind of type A. I'm a quick start. You tell me what to do. I'm going. I'm getting it. So, not quitting halfway through, not an option. Literally, by the end, I'm convulsing. I'm having a seizure because my body was so unconditioned for it. And my mind is like, you're gonna die. Your legs are gonna fall off. Abort, abort, abort. And my conscious mind was like, no, I can handle it. That timer went off, and I did not sit and meditate for an entire year. So let's talk about the real purpose of meditation. It is enlightenment. It's enlightenment, which is a state of complete bliss every day, all day long. Enlightenment, a state of complete bliss all day, every day. I don't want that. It sounds crazy. Yes, I'm a yogi. And yes, I meditate every day. But let me be very honest with you. I know I'm so truthful with the fact that I'm not willing to put in the time and the energy and the effort to become an enlightened master. I'm just not. And I know that's the purpose. I know that's the aim. And I meditate every day. So you may be thinking well, dude, if you're not aiming for enlightenment, but you meditate every day, why? And here's the best analogy I have. Take a moment and just envision yourself. You're on this beach with a bonfire, but the bonfire is far away and it's cold, it's wintertime. And you feel cold, you feel isolated, there's no one around you. You feel alone. And every day, because your desire is to get to that bonfire and be with all the people who are there surrounding it, feeling its warmth, you just commit to taking a step. And you commit to taking another step. And you commit to taking another step. And every day you choose to take a step. You may not feel the warmth, but soon enough, at some point, you will get close enough to begin to feel the warmth. You won't even be there yet, but you'll feel the warmth. You'll begin to hear the people and the love, the connection that they're creating, and you'll start to experience that as your own. Maybe one day you get there, but maybe you don't. This is my point behind enlightenment. I don't care if I get there, but I'm totally committed to walking the path, meaning I'm totally committed to meditating, to sitting and with myself every single day, because as sure as I walk towards that bonfire and I feel its warmth, I will sit in meditation and I will feel what happens on the path towards enlightenment, which is more love, more self-love, more belonging, right? More joy, the things in my life that I'm looking for, that meaning I don't care if I get there, because the point of the goal is the person you become on your way to achieving it. The point of walking towards the bonfire is to feel its warmth. You may not get there, but you're going to feel the warmth. You're going to feel the connection. The point of meditation, yes, it's enlightenment, but you may never get there. I'm really honest. I don't think I'm going to get there, but I'm feeling the love and the connection that's born from walking the path. That's why I meditate. Okay, so, here's what's really cool. We've all had flashes of bliss. We've all had flashes of bliss, what we call these brief enlightened moments. And this is what I mean. There's if you love nature and you love sunsets, the moment you walk onto the beach and you see it, you look out your window and the moment you see it, you feel its beauty. You don't think about its beauty, you feel its beauty. If you have children, the first time you held your baby in your arms and looked down at it, and you were just in rapture, right? Quiet and feeling, like for me, it was tears of joy, feeling the love, right? Those are little enlightened moments. For some, it's, you had a stressful day, you come in and your pet is that catalyst for you. It's like unconditionally love. Like if you have pets and you feel the unconditional love, give me some likes, give me some loves. Like that is like, I don't have pets. We're talking about a dog, but right now I don't have it. I got kids. Like what's equivalent to a dog running up to your door is my girls like losing their minds, Daddy! When they come up. And literally in that moment, I'm just feeling the love, experiencing what they feel with me. And it happens in sex too. There's moments like when we're like making love, when we're literally in the moment. Here's the difference. Most of us in those moments are thinking about it. You see a sunset, and for a split second, happens on nanoseconds, people. You see it. And the moment you see it, a nanosecond later, you say, oh, that's a beautiful sunset. And then you take out your phone and say, let me take a picture of that sunset. And the moment you've done that, you've now separated yourself from the sunset. There it is. And here you are. Because the mind jumps in, we separate ourselves from these experiences, these flashes of bliss. Now we have them, but we just immediately separate, thinking that I've got to think about it for it to experience it. And if I don't take a picture of it and put it on Instagram, then it never really happened. These flashes of bliss, in my opinion, honestly, even if you don't meditate, are what keeping us sane, or what's literally keeping us on firm, grounded foundation in the craziness and the chaos of life. So then the question is, if you've experienced those, and let me know, please put hashtag I can relate if you've had these moments of bliss. If you've had little brief moments of whether it's with your child or whether it's with your pet or whether it's nature. I've had them when I was surfing. There was one evening I was living on 26th Street and I surfed more then than I ever have. And there was one evening, it was after a teacher training, and I went out and surfed and there was literally no thought, and I was just surfing, and waves would come, and that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, is when I drop in on a wave, there's nothing else but that moment. I've merged with the experience. That's another way of describing enlightenment, is you've merged with the moment.
Repeat that prayer so I'm really astonished.
Okay, what part? So, flashes of bliss. I may never get to enlightenment. You may never get to enlightenment, but that's not a reason not to meditate. And in fact, you've experienced moments of enlightenment. Literally moments of, so here's the way to describe it. What the mind is doing all the time is it's separating itself from experiences. You have an experience and you think about it, and you're not in it. You're now trying to figure out how to work it and how to do it. So but you've had moments of bliss. Some of you, it's nature. You take a walk in the park and you're not thinking about it. You're just experiencing the smell and the sight and the sound, and you're just literally you've merged, you're in the experience. If your passion is gardening and you can just be there for hours, you're not thinking about it, you're just you're attuned with the earth and you're planting and you're weeding and you're in that experience where time literally doesn't matter. It literally stands still. There is no concept of tomorrow or the next day. You are in full rapture with what you're experiencing. Or sometimes it's making love. Right? For a lot of us, it's making love. It's the moment of man, you're literally merging with somebody and experiencing this love and this passion, this ecstasy. What happens for most of us is we have a brief moment of that, and then the mind kicks in and we start thinking about it. When you do that, you've now separated yourself. That experience, those flashes of bliss, it's a flash because there's a moment before the mind kicks in, where you've experienced life without the filter, without the mind. So then the question becomes, what keeps us from experiencing those more and for longer periods of time? Now, if you can relate to this, a like or a love, so you know, yes, I feel you on I've had those moments. I've had those flashes, whether it was holding the baby, whether it's in nature, whether it was, making love, whatever it was. Let me know that you feel me on that, because it's really important that if you've had those, it means that you know what you're looking for. And that's so important. And then the question is, what keeps us from experiencing those more and for longer periods of time? Okay, and the answer is patterns of mind. Typically, we term this patterns of consciousness, but we usually use that terminology and language in our teacher trainings. So it's literally patterns of the mind, which is really a pattern of the brain. But I'll talk about that. And what I'm really saying with patterns of mind is subconscious programming. It's really important that you know, because of evolution, you are the way you are. Meaning it's not your fault. You're crazy is everyone's crazy. And here's why. We have old brains, literally hundreds of thousands, millions of years of evolution is what we're dealing with here. This evolution has given the brain, what you have in here, the brain, the number one priority, survival. It doesn't care if you're at peace. It doesn't care if you're happy. It doesn't care if there's joy in your life. And because of survival being its number one priority, it has a negativity bias. What do I mean by that? Back in the day, way back in the day, like our way back ancestors, when every single day was a matter of life and death, right? We don't have sharp teeth. We don't have sharp claws. Like, we were prey, but we have these brains that allowed us to project out and plan and navigate our environment in ways that no other species could, that we know of. So here we are in that literal life or death situation. And the brain says, you noticing that stick that could be a snake? Way more valuable than you noticing that flower that's beautiful. You noticing the movement of the brush in your periphery that could be a big cat? Way more valuable than you noticing this sunset that's happening as you get eaten. The point is, millions of years of evolution have forced you to focus more on negative experiences than positive ones, because avoiding a threat was much more immediately advantageous to your survival than like reaching for an opportunity. This is so important. One of you in the thread, Amory, I believe it was, you said, why is it? So in the first journal writing, we had you focus on what you're struggling with, what like your biggest hurdles in life right now. And the second was, describe your best life. And what she wrote in the thread was, why am I only, or is it weird that I'm only focusing on day one, even after day two? And I was like, no. And it's because you have a negativity bias. And so do I. So does everyone else. Your brain is wired to focus on the negative. Now, fast forward to right now. This is so important. We're not life or death situation anymore, right? You could argue the fact with the current pandemic we're dealing with. But most of us, what we're doing now, because remember, this is subconscious programming. We're playing out all of these scenarios in our head. It's what we call the simulation. The simulation is you projecting out into the future, and it's like a daydream, but it's kind of a day nightmare, because all of the simulations end up being worst case scenarios. Why? Because your brain cares about survival. It doesn't care about your peace and your well-being, because it has a negativity bias which helped you survive. Now, when I mean survival, and this will help articulate why the thoughts you have are the way they are and why some are predominant and some are not. In terms of survival, there's 4 key things the brain wants. The 4 F's, as we call it. It's fight, it's flight, right? That's sympathetic nervous system action. I'm either going to run away or, it's fight or flight. I'm either going to run away or I'm going to throw some blows, right? The 3rd F is feeding. You need to eat food to survive. And the 4th F is procreation. And it's procreation because this survival isn't just for yourself, but survival of the species. And so we are predominantly looking at our environment like, do I need to run or do I need to fight something? Can I eat that or can I have sex with it? Right? And those are the things that we end up playing out over and over again. So remember now, we're not in life or death situations. We're in normal daily life, right? Where what's been replaced with the brush that could be a big cat or the stick that could be a snake is, conflict at work. You're unhappy with your job. There's issues in your relationships. And so the brain is focusing the mind is focusing on all of these things, playing out worst case scenarios because we're dealing with old programming that's designed to keep you alive, not designed to make you happy. Understanding this, there's a next real key point here. The brain and the body can't distinguish reality from these mental simulations. They can't. John and I, when we were in our the throes of martial arts, we were basically doing MMA, mixed martial arts, but it wasn't called that back in the day. It was prior to MMA, but we were so focused on what we call self-preservation aspect of it. Kind of our motto was learn it today to be able to use it tonight. But to be able to do that, we knew that you fight like you train. And we knew if we simulated scenarios that could potentially be real scenarios in life and see if our training is working in those scenarios, we'll be able to actually defend ourselves in a real way. Every single day, 2 times a day, most days, we were having these real life simulations in our martial arts training. That added with the craziness of our lives at the time is what led to the hair analysis test that John got that said, we're experiencing acute stress disorder. Why? They weren't real. It was John I was fighting. He's my brother. I love him. But I was putting myself in a situation where the brain and the body couldn't distinguish. And you know this. If you have experienced a moment where you're simulating something and all of a sudden you feel if it's, obviously it's gonna be negative, but something contentious and you feel your palms sweaty, you feel your heart racing, you feel your blood pulsing through your body, #yes, please, because it's so important that you recognize what's going on here has a physiological effect here in the body, in the brain, in the body. Literally, when you play something out, the same neurochemicals are dumping into your brain and your bloodstream that is as if it were really happening. Okay, cool. So that's that. So then, all that, very negative. Oh, it's fight or flight. It's this or that. Oh, what happened? So the question is, how does this work? How does this work? And how can we be free of it? There's a saying, we got this from a book called Buddha's Brain. It's change the mind to change the brain to change the mind. Change the mind to change the brain to change the mind. What that's saying is that if we can start controlling the simulations and what we're focusing on, the brain will in turn start to reshape itself. This is called neuroplasticity. There's a period of our lives, and not so distant ago, where we thought at the age of 7 we were hardwired. No more learning. You are who you are. Go live your life. It's not true. Current science is saying there's neuroplasticity. You can actually change and evolve and adapt until your death. It gets harder when you're older, but it's still possible. And this is the mechanism. You change the mind, what you're focusing on, which will change your brain, the neurochemicals and what you're experiencing, how you feel about life, and then that then changes your mind. The brain will be patterned, there it is, to see this new perspective. So check this out. This is if you weren't on our retreat in Costa Rica, the one we just went to, then you haven't seen this yet. This is new information that we had a brainstorm and it was oh my God, it connects. And what John's gonna do tomorrow overlays on this. And it's so powerful. Just these 2 trainings, this one and then what John does tomorrow, if you add it and you lay this thing over each other, you will see all of the reasons why you are the way you are, period. And that is then the key to your freedom. So let's look at this. This box says identity. This box says experience. This box says stories. This box says beliefs. What is identity? That's who I am, or who you believe yourself to be. But we say things like that. Oh, that's just who I am. I'm not a morning person. Just who I am. That's your identity. We then have experiences. These experiences, honestly, if I'm really telling the truth, they're all neutral. They're not inherently good or bad. It's the truth. But that's not the reality. The reality is, because of this, we start experiencing them as positive, negative, or neutral. So our minds lump all experiences into one of 3 buckets. It's positive, it's negative, or it's neutral. Which means the positive, we end up chasing it. The negative, we end up running away from it. And the neutral, we end up ignoring it. Let's go down to stories. The stories that we create, I'm talking about now stories is what the simulations were. All the stories that were playing out in our mind. There's a saying that Like you think you're thinking, but all you're really doing is telling stories to yourself about yourself. And they all have this negative color, this negative hue because of our brains. Trying to wrap it all together. So these stories, what we're really doing with the stories, we're trying to create meaning over these experiences. There's got to be a meaning for this. And so the stories are like, oh, it means this or it means that. And what are these stories are really doing? The real power of stories, this is so important, is that they hold up our beliefs about, this says how life is. This says meanings, this says how life is. These stories are literally the scaffolding that supports beliefs. We all have them. And these beliefs become your identity. This is how life is. And that's why I am the way I am. That's just who I am. And then guess what? That becomes the filter. Oh, I have another experience. Oh, because of who I am and how it literally colors the way you see experiences. That's why we lump it in positive, negative, or neutral, because we have a preconditioned set program to experience. Oh, red light, I'm angry. Check. Program, done. Story. Oh, I'm always late. That's why I'm always angry at red lights. Belief. Oh yeah, this is how life is. It's just, life's a struggle. And, every time you're late, there's always going to be red lights. Oh, and this is just who I am. I'm just always that procrastinator, that late person. And then experience that. You see, it's a feedback loop. Now, this is what's really important. The feedback loop doesn't have to be negative. It can be positive. So one of the hardest experiences I've ever had in my life was the separation of my mom and dad. It happened when I was very young. I was 2. I'm the youngest of 6. And when he left, he stayed around. It was, I could tell you, I could take the next year to tell you all the different stories, but he stayed around for a little bit, but then he was gone. He went to Europe, he then went to Arizona, he then went to California, then went to the Midwest, and he forgot every birthday. He was never around. Literally, I felt abandoned, but not just that, I felt like he and my mom separating was my fault. And so here it is. I had an experience of my mom and dad separating. The story I told myself was that it was my fault. The belief I had was that I was unlovable because of that. I felt abandoned. And because I took the responsibility from the story I was telling, the belief I created was that I'm unlovable. Literally, it was like there was a puzzle piece in me that was missing. And mind you, my mom was full loving. She loved me, but she couldn't. What was broken inside of me was not something she could fix. This created an identity of I am an unlovable person and I will always be unlucky in love. Fast forward now, I'm in my early 20s and I'm dating. And I'm dating this one girl and it's going great. And I'm like, man, this could be the one. It wasn't. And all of a sudden, she doesn't tell me, but I see her out at night and she's with her ex. And so here it is, an experience. The girl I was dating left me for her ex and didn't tell me. And the story I told was, it just must be my fault. I must have done something. That's right. I'm unlovable. Oh, that's right. That's my identity. 6 months later, I'm dating someone else. This is no shit. I promise. This is a real, true life story. She leaves me for her ex without telling me. Same story, same belief, reaffirms my identity. I wish I was lying. It happened a 3rd time in that same year. She leaves me without telling me, goes back to her ex. At this point, who would believe that it was their fault, that they're unlucky in love, and that's just who I am? Right? So now fast forward, I'm in my later 20s, and I'm dating my now wife. We're living together, we're lying in bed, and she gets a text. And then she gets another one. And then she gets another one. And then she gets another one. And all of a sudden, I feel angry because I was like, oh, she's probably cheating on me. And she doesn't tell me. And all I could do, very passive-aggressively, I was like, listen, if you're going to continue to get texts, you've got to leave. At least go, and not leave forever, but go in the other room. Anyway, I wake up, and I was super unnerved about it. I was not okay, but I didn't say anything. I just kind of let it be. And I sat in meditation. I already had formed a meditation practice at this point, and I was practicing yoga all the time. And I just sat with it, and I kind of like asked the question, what do I do? And I didn't hear voices or anything like that, but the general sense was like, just chill. Like, just be. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. So fast forward this coming Saturday, the Saturday back then, and we're going out to dinner because it was my birthday, my 30th birthday. And we're eating dinner. It's wonderful. We're having a good time. I kind of like just put all that behind me. And she's like, hey, do you want to go to this other restaurant? We'll have some dessert. Yeah, of course. So we go to the other restaurant. I walk in. Surprise! She set up a 30th surprise birthday for me. And I look at her. I was like, wait a second. What were you doing in bed that night? She was like, your best friend was drunk texting me how awesome we are together, and I hope you make it, and how much he loves me. And I was like, oh my God. Here it is. Here it is. This pattern of me feeling unlovable, like there's a part missing, and this experience of her like texting just that one night. And then the story of like, oh, I know she's cheating on me. Why? Because I'm unlovable, because I'm unlovable and that's my identity, because I've had all these experiences that reaffirm that. All of a sudden, that story and that belief almost sabotaged literally the woman of my dreams being in my life right now. This is the power. So the question is, the power of meditation is my point. How do we create more positive feedback loops? How do we create more positive feedback loops? Because the same process, it's just a process. It's arbitrary. It's not inherently good or bad. The way to do it is to hack into stories. This is why. Your identity, when you say this is just who I am, how open are you to changing that? You're not. It's your identity. Your beliefs, they don't even have to be true, but they're just believable. If I ask you, hey, what are your false beliefs? You would be like, I have none, because they're your beliefs. They're not false until someone presents different information that allows you to see it. How is that information presented? In story form. What I'm saying is you have to hack into your stories, the stories that you're telling yourself. Hashtag hack into stories. Hack stories. Hashtag hack stories if you're feeling me on this, because this is the deal. This is not the entry point. You don't have control over all the experiences. This is not the entry point to change because it's your identity. It's hardwired. It's who you think you are. This is not the entry point because you don't know false beliefs because they're your beliefs, period. You got to start looking at the stories you're telling yourself and asking, are they empowering or disempowering? So how do we create more positive feedback loops? We hack into our stories, what I just said. And how do we do that? Through meditation. Why meditation? Because there are three main benefits, and I'll be wrapping this up right here, so stay with me. And if you're feeling it, say keep going, because I could stop right here if you're like, you know what, that was good, I'm good, I gotta run. But if you want me to keep going, hashtag keep going. Keep me going, because I'm energized, I want to keep going this. I'm gonna keep going anyway. I don't care, I do care, but I don't. All right, so why the three main benefits of meditation? And I'll bring it right back to stories and that whole feedback loop that I just spoke of. Because it increases your awareness. What do I mean by that? You're like, wait, I walk around, I'm aware of everything. No, you're not. You're aware of the things you tell your brain to be aware of, right? There are these things called RAS receptors. John will talk about it tomorrow. And it's literally what governs like what your brain focuses on as significant in your environment. And you tell it that. My point is, meditation, it heightens and expands your awareness. Not just generally, you may notice certain things a little bit more or later, like have this heightened sense of like, I'm very attentive, but what it's really giving you is an awareness of when you're telling a story. Why does that work? Because, think about it, I'm sitting in meditation, my eyes are closed, and I'm focusing on my breath. And that's it, so simple, right? Should be easy. It's not, it's the most difficult thing in the world. Why? Because all of a sudden, you're breathing, and then your mind turns. What it turns to? A story that you're telling to yourself about some future or past experience. Why? Because there's something in your environment that has to be dealt with right now. No, it doesn't. But what happens is you now have juxtaposition. You now have a benchmark of, oh, wait, I was here. And now I see myself lost in thought, lost in a story. You heighten your awareness of when you're not present, which makes you feel more crazy. That's why most people don't continue with meditation, is because they feel crazy and that they can't stop thinking. That's not the point. I wish I had time to go into the deeper aspect of like what success in meditation looks like and why, but I don't. Just know that the process of focusing to the mind and then being able to see and be aware of when you're not breathing and focusing on your breath and you're lost in thought is the entry point to hacking into your stories. Here's the next level. Impulse control. What does that mean? You feel called to act in the moment, and you have the strength to not. Or you empaths out there, I'll get to you in a second because I'm one. You feel called to not say anything and just, I will burn this in the fire of my own spirit and I will reconcile it because I don't want to hurt anyone else's feelings or make anyone feel uncomfortable in the environment that I'm in. I'll just take it all in. So your impulse is to withhold information, to not communicate. It's the same thing. Impulse control isn't just stopping when you feel, it's doing when you don't feel, right? This is what's so important. Awareness and impulse control. Impulse control, so now I'm seeing it, and in the moment I see my mind lost in thought, I see the story I'm telling myself, I choose to come back to my breath. That, every single time, is a rep. As sure as you put a weight in this hand and you start pumping that iron, this is going to get stronger. Every single time you are focused and your mind turns, you're heightening your awareness because you can see it now. You didn't see it before. And you also, when you choose to come back to your breath, you are building the muscle of being able to stop and not act when it's not right, or to act when you feel compelled to not. Because what the value of this is choice. When you're lost in the simulations and you're running off subconscious programming, you don't have a choice. It's a program. An experience happens, bam, I hit it. So then, empathy, last bit. Empathy is first and foremost, it's not for someone else, it's for yourself. You have to understand that the experiences you had in your life, what you experienced in your life, all of the reasons you made the decisions, all the mistakes, all the imperfections, all the things, you gotta be on your own side. You have to be willing to stop judging yourself and to step into your own shoes and experience all of your life as if it wasn't a mistake. It brought you to where you are. Meditation increases your empathy, first and foremost for yourself, because what are you doing? You're sitting with yourself and you're experiencing your mind and you get to just sit with it and be with it and stand in your own skin and be there. This is the value of meditation. But the real value of this isn't just this and how it reforms. It then gives you this experience of what's next, what's coming tomorrow. Because the entire, yes, this could be enough. Yes, you will stop self-sabotaging. Yes, you will create this, experience of living where you're being more honest and truthful with yourself and with other people. But then the next question is, what do you really want in life? What do you want? What do you want it to look like? That's what the journal writing was yesterday, right? What do you want? But then the question, this is where power comes in. This is what John's going to talk about. How do we go about and get it? With this foundation that I'm enough, with this foundation of love, which is foundation of all this awareness, I can see all the stories that are holding me back and self-sabotaging. I now have more impulse control to make differences and make changes in my life because I have a choice and I can stand in my own skin and I feel okay, I feel comfortable. With that, what do we do with it? What do we do then? And that's what John's going to talk about tomorrow, is what we do then. So, that was a lot. The homework tonight is, so we talked about what your best life looked like yesterday. Today is what holds you back from that. And you don't get the out by saying, the stories I'm telling myself. Hashtag, I will not use that out. It's what is holding you back from it? What is it that's keeping you from getting there? And just list it. What you'll find is you'll create a list of I can't, I won't, and I'm not. And what that's going to highlight for you is all of the identities that you're holding, that you feel is keeping you back from experiencing this next level of life. So the homework tonight is what keeps you back? What holds you back? What's keeping you from experiencing the beauty of what you wrote about yesterday? The joy and the love and the connection and the peace of what your best life looks like. Thank you so much for joining in. Please don't forget, tomorrow it's about power. It's about creating that life, and we'll teach you the exact mechanics of how to go about doing that. Well, I won't. John will. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.